everybody, thanks for joining me today. Dr. Ross Marcacciani with another great talk at Turnpike Health and Wellness Center. Today we're going to be talking about Hashimoto's, specifically a condition involved with the thyroid. We'll be talking about what Hashimoto's is, we're talking about how does someone get Hashimoto's, how do you test for Hashimoto's, and then how we improve that condition. Let's dive in. So first, what is Hashimoto's? So just to be aware of, Hashimoto's is the most common cause in the United States of hypothyroid conditions. So what does that mean? Typically hypothyroid conditions mean weight gain, you notice hair thinning or hair loss, you'll notice that you're having cold sensitivities in the hand and feet. With females, we can have altered menstrual cycle, we can also have constipation as well. Those are the main symptoms along with hypothyroid condition. But let's give you a little bit of information before we dive in specifically what's going on with Hashimoto's. So Hashimoto's involves your thyroid gland, which is a gland that sits on the top of your throat, as if you were to put a tie over your neck. That's where the gland could be found. And what happens here, the thyroid is really important for a couple of things. It's really crucial for regulating thermogenesis, so regulating our body temperature. It's really important for our metabolic rate, so our metabolism, really helpful for that. Really important for oxygen consumption, and very helpful for bone health, neuronal development, brain development, and energy as well. So the thyroid does a lot of things, and almost every gland in the body functions off some way off thyroid tissue, or T3 I should say, which we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. So what the thyroid gland does is, what will happen is, how it works is we consume iodide, not iodine, iodide with a D. We consume that through dietary consumption, and through our digestive tract, it absorbs it into the bloodstream. Then from there, the iodide will get delivered to the thyroid. The thyroid then will release something called thyroid stimulating enzyme. So or thyroid stimulating hormone. And this enzyme will help to break down and convert the iodide into iodine. And that process will make thyroxine, T4. Then from there, another metabolic process occurs where we have deiodinization, meaning we remove an iodine from that T4. And all that T4 means is that there's a thyroid globulin attached to 4-iodine. And we have to know here, T4 is in inactive form. It doesn't really do much. It just is like a storage form of the thyroid hormone. Then we have deiodinization, which we now remove one of those 4 iodines to make T3, or triiodothyronine, which for short is T3. This is our most active hormone in our thyroid. This is what will influence our cells and help our thyroid to function. So T3 is the ultimate conversion, what we want to get down to the most to have our thyroid be active. A really interesting fact here, T3 is not only stored made by the thyroid, but it's also made by our pituitary, which is a portion, an aspect in the brain. It's made by our kidneys and made by our liver. So T3 is not only made just in our thyroid. So really important to realize that when thinking about T3 production and thyroid health. So what is Hashimoto's here? Hashimoto's is an autoimmune attack. For those who don't know what that means, autoimmune means attacking self. So we are actually having circulating antibodies, which we'll talk about, that are actually attacking the thyroid gland and causing the release of various hormones or various markers, which we'll discuss. So at its root, that's exactly what's going on, is the thyroid is being attacked by our own body and causing it to malfunction. So how does someone get Hashimoto's? So we mentioned about it there briefly. It's an autoimmune attack that we're attacking the thyroid, but typically it precedes intestinal permeability, meaning that our digestive tract becomes impaired. We're no longer able to absorb nutrients effectively, so we're not absorbing the iodide, we're not absorbing zinc, we're not absorbing selenium, we're not absorbing lithium, these really important molecules that are crucial for thyroid health. Then as we have intestinal permeability, we have food particles starting to leak into the bloodstream, we create molecular mimicry. And this basically means, I've talked about this in other videos, is that food particles start to look like thyroid particles. And the immune system gets a little bit haywired and says, I can't differentiate between the food particles and the thyroid particles, so I'm going to attack both. So we now start attacking and stimulating that immune tract to the thyroid. Also, really important here that we look at the adrenals, because the adrenals and the thyroid basically are on the same circuitry. The adrenals are on the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and the thyroid is on the HPT axis, hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. So a lot of the thyroid and the adrenals communicate with one another. So really crucial if we're having thyroid dysfunction to address the adrenals, which can influence thyroid function. Also making sure we're detoxifying correctly so that we're getting rid of these circulating food particles, or we're getting rid of the dysbiotic bacteria that could be stimulating the autoimmune attack to our thyroid. So really important we improve detoxification. So how do we test for Hashimoto's or thyroid conditions? So first, the most common test here is going to be thyroid stimulating hormone. So a lot of the times practitioners will chase this marker, and we need to realize we need to consult the patient as well on how they're feeling in regards to their thyroid symptoms. Because a lot of the times what will happen is when the thyroid's getting attacked, it will actually leak out thyroid stimulating hormone. So we can end up chasing this thyroid hormone that goes really low, then comes really high, and we're just constantly chasing this ebbs and flows, this high and low thyroid stimulating hormone. Also other markers, so we can't just get tied into TSH. We have to look at other markers such as your free T4, your free T3, total T4 and total T3, your reverse T3, T3 uptake, thyroxine binding globulin. These are all really important that we look at these. We also, for the diagnosis of Hashimoto's, typically thyroglobulin antibody and thyroid peroxidase antibody are run. Also, we can use thyroid ultrasound if we're having formation of goiters or possible cancerous indications that could be going on in the thyroid. Also, a needle biopsy would be another method of diagnosing a possible cancer of the thyroid. We also want to make sure we look at adrenal health. We look at our pregnenolone, our cortisol, our DHEA, looking at the gut health, making sure our gut is intact, looking at detoxifying pathways to make sure we're detoxifying correctly. Those are all crucial to thyroid health. So how do we improve Hashimoto's? So first, we want to make sure we're absorbing iodine and we're intaking adequate amounts of iodide, which can be found in like those flakes. You can use seaweed, you can use Brazil nuts. These are all have high amounts, but just want to be careful here. The reason why we have iodine starred is because you want to continuously monitor your antibodies, because sometimes iodine can actually stimulate your antibodies that attack the thyroid, to stimulate them to produce more. So we always want to be careful with iodine. I typically start nice, low, and slow, typically somewhere around 200 micrograms, right in that range. We want to consume selenium. Selenium is very crucial for the conversion of T4, that inactive thyroid hormone, to T3, the active thyroid hormone. We want to consume zinc. I consume typically right around 54 milligrams. Lithium, which is very helpful for thyroid function, right around 5 milligrams for that. Another aspect that helps to lower thyroid peroxidase antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies is the para-aminobenzoic acid, or PABA for short. Typically right around 4 grams of this has helped to show lower TPO and thyroglobulin antibodies. We want to avoid goitrogens, so if we're noticing that we're getting goiters that form on the thyroid, we want to try to reduce that as much as possible. It's almost like after the thyroid's been attacked, it scars up and hence produces a goiter. So goitrogenic foods are going to be your Brussels sprouts, your kale, your cabbage, your turnips. I know these are healthy foods, but if we have increased goitrogen formation, it's important to reduce that. We want to make sure we consume a gluten-free diet, and we want to make sure that we heal your gut and we focus on repairing your adrenals. These are all very crucial in the health of your adrenals. Also, making sure we're looking at if we have candida or fungal bacterial overgrowth. A lot of these fungi or dysbiotic bacteria can stimulate the attack on the thyroid and influence intestinal permeability. So if you have any issues or you know anyone who's struggling from Hashimoto's or thyroid conditions and needs help, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. Our main goal here is to provide information to make informed decisions on your health. Thank you for your time today and have a wonderful day.